You ever seen a man so full of himself, so wrapped up in his badge and boots that he forgot who he was messing with? Officer Darren Coyle thought he was making a point when he kicked that black man square in the chest in the middle of a packed courtroom right in front of the judge, the jury, even a couple reporters from Channel 8. But what he didn't know, what he couldn't begin to imagine, was that the man he just put his foot on wasn't some random defendant. No, sir. That man was Elijah Kane. And Elijah, he wasn't just a former Navy SEAL, he was the Elijah Kane. The kind of legend whispered about in combat tents who'd gone through 12 tours, lost half his unit in Mosul, and once survived 6 days in enemy territory with nothing but a radio, a broken rib, and pure spite. And Officer Coyle, he just kicked that man like he was some kid jaywalking. Elijah didn't flinch, didn't raise a fist. He just stood up slowly, quietly, and the entire courtroom fell into this kind of breathless silence, like the air itself didn't know what was about to happen. Judge Renner slammed his gavel so hard it cracked the bench. "Order," he shouted, voice shaking but furious. You could tell he hadn't planned on being part of history that day, but history showed up anyway with combat boots and a calm stare. Now let's back up a bit, because Elijah didn't end up in that courtroom by chance. He was there fighting a bogus charge, something about resisting arrest during a wellness check. See, his neighbor had called 911 because Elijah hadn't picked up his paper in 2 days. That's it. 2 damn days. They didn't knock. Didn't ask questions. Just burst in like it was a drug bust. He'd been meditating in his garage. That's all. And when he reached for his phone to ask what was going on, they tackled him, 5 cops on 1 man. The prosecutor wanted to make an example of him. A black man, military background, PTSD rumors, easy target. Except, not so much. Because Elijah Kane doesn't break. He was broken once, but not by the system. By war. Let me tell you something. Elijah's been to places most of us couldn't find on a map. He grew up in Rust Creek, a forgotten corner of Louisiana where the power went out more than the buses showed up. His mom worked 3 jobs. His dad, well, let's just say sometimes not having a father is better than having that kind of father. He joined the Navy at 17. Nobody saw it coming, not even his high school principal, who once told him he'd be in jail before he turned 20. Boot camp was hell, but Bud's SEAL training was something else. Ice water drills, live fire night crawls, weeks of sleep deprivation. Guys twice his size dropped out by day 3. But Elijah, he just smiled through cracked lips and kept going. Said pain reminded him he was still alive. Said silence was louder than screams. That man learned patience in sniper school and learned death in Kandahar. And when he came home, all he wanted was peace, a little garden in his backyard, morning walks, and quiet. But instead he got a knee on his neck, an assault charge, and now this. Back to the courtroom. Officer Coyle, clearly realizing something was off, started backpedaling. He moved aggressively. He stammered, hands trembling slightly. I thought he was reaching for something. The judge's jaw tightened. The jury looked disgusted. And Clara Morales, Elijah's attorney, she didn't waste a second. She stood up, slid a file across the table, and said, "Your Honor, permission to enter Exhibit C. Elijah Kane's full military record, including Distinguished Service Cross, Purple Heart, and 22 letters of commendation." The courtroom shifted. You could feel it. Even the stenographer paused her fingers. But here's where things got even more real. Elijah's old squad leader, Marcus Tex Holland, walked in from the back of the gallery. Retired now, limps from a hip injury, but still wears the SEAL insignia on his lapel. He raised his voice just enough to say, "That man saved my life. Twice. If you think he's a threat to this country, you might want to check your definition of patriot." Boom. Twist number 1, the media. Oh, they exploded. By noon, hashtags like #JusticeForElijah and #SEAL kicked in court were trending nationwide. CNN picked it up. Fox News twisted it sideways. TikTok flooded with edits of the courtroom footage, slowed down, soundtracked by gospel choirs and Kendrick Lamar. And then came the police chief, Howard Lasky, a man not known for public remorse. He gave a press conference looking like someone had shoved gravel in his coffee. "We take this matter seriously," he said through clenched teeth, "and Officer Coyle has been placed on administrative leave pending investigation," which in police speak is basically saying, "We're not doing anything until you make us." Didn't matter. Public pressure was boiling. Civil rights groups rolled in. Veterans associations put out statements. Even Elijah's old unit put together a video, every single one of them in uniform, staring dead into the camera. "We stand with Kane." That night outside the courthouse, hundreds gathered, candles, signs, prayers, rage. One woman, a retired teacher, held up a photo of Elijah in his dress blues next to her son. "He mentored my boy when no one else would," she said through tears, "and they tried to put him in chains." Twist number 2 came when a security guard leaked the full footage from the courthouse security system angle never shown in court. It showed clearly Elijah was sitting hands visible, calm, until Officer Coyle walked past and intentionally kicked him like stepping on a bug. The DA's office launched an internal review. The mayor issued a formal apology, and the local PD's social media pages had to be shut down due to threat levels. But Elijah, he didn't speak, not at first. He just kept showing up to court day after day, wearing a simple gray suit and that stare, the one you can't fake, the one you earn by walking through fire and not being consumed by it. And the people kept coming, veterans, activists, even skeptical conservatives who said, "I don't usually protest, but this was too far." You could feel it, momentum, turning stories, unraveling, something much bigger than one man taking shape. But that was just the start, and that's where everything changed. The next morning, the courtroom wasn't just a room anymore. It was a pressure cooker sealed tight with tension. People lined the hallways. Reporters pressed in so thick they had to set up extra metal detectors. Folks didn't show up for jury duty with that kind of fire unless something big was coming. Elijah walked in like always, quiet, calm, focused. But this time, even his calm shook the room. You could see it, the way people leaned in, the way even the prosecutor couldn't quite meet his eyes. And across the aisle, Officer Darren Coyle, the man who kicked him, he looked different now. He wasn't cocky anymore. His back hunched just slightly, like his badge didn't weigh the same today. His lawyer whispered something in his ear, but Coyle didn't move, didn't nod, just stared at the floor with the blank eyes of a man circling the edge of his own unraveling. Then came Clara Morales, Elijah's lawyer, fierce as ever, heels clicking like gunshots on marble. She stepped up to the front and said, "Your Honor, today we present testimony not from character witnesses but from history itself." And that's when she played it. The audio recording. Not from the courtroom, no. This was body cam footage from the day Elijah got arrested. The moment the cops burst into his garage. You could hear Elijah's voice steady. "What's going on?" Then without warning, the violent thud of bodies. A cop shouting, "He's got something," followed by another. "No, wait, it's a phone." Gasps swept through the room. Someone in the back muttered, "Unbelievable." Coyle sat frozen, sweat building under his collar, his jaw clenched so tight you could see the vein in his temple pulsing like a warning light. Judge Renner narrowed his eyes. "Officer Coyle, would you like to respond?" And finally, the man spoke. At first it was defiance. "I followed protocol." He muttered, voice hard. "He made me feel threatened. He could have been reaching for anything. I acted on instinct." But the judge didn't blink. And Clara, she didn't back down. "Instinct," she said, stepping forward. "You mean the same instinct that told you a decorated veteran was a threat, that told you kicking a seated man in court was justified, that told you deep down that no matter what this man had done for this country, you could still treat him like garbage because you were in uniform and he wasn't." For a moment, Coyle said nothing. Then came the crack. It wasn't loud, but it was deep. His shoulders slumped, and when he looked up, the rage was gone. And what replaced it was worse fear. Not the kind you feel when a gun's pointed at you. No, this was deeper. This was the fear of being seen for what you are, when there's no one left to defend the mask you built. "I didn't mean to hurt him," Coyle whispered, barely audible. But the judge heard. The jury heard. Everyone heard. "You didn't mean to hurt him," Elijah finally said, his voice steady, echoing in the silence. "But you did. You didn't mean to humiliate a soldier. But you did. You didn't mean to spark all this. But here we are." He paused, then stepped forward, not with fists, not with threats, but with the full weight of everything he carried. "I've been through war zones. I've buried brothers. I've seen kids die in my arms. But nothing prepared me for the quiet way my country tried to erase me in my own backyard." Every eye in the room welled up. Even the judge had to take a breath. Then came twist number 3. Clara revealed the civil suit already in motion. A class action lawsuit not just for Elijah, but for 12 other black veterans in the county who'd been targeted, harassed, or wrongfully arrested. A pattern. Documented. Tracked. Named. Names like Coyle's. Names like his captain's. Twist number 4. The police chief resigned that afternoon. No press conference. Just a resignation letter and a box carried out the back door. And twist 5. The city council voted unanimously to suspend all involved officers pending independent review, by federal investigators. The courtroom erupted, not in chaos but in something else relief, like a weight had been lifted off more than just one man. After the verdict, Elijah fully cleared of all charges. He didn't smile. He didn't cheer. He just turned, shook Clara's hand, nodded to the crowd, and walked outside into the pouring rain. Because, see, that's the thing. For men like Elijah, justice isn't a party. It's a quiet moment when you finally feel your name ain't being dragged through the mud anymore. When you look around and realize you didn't just survive, you changed something. The media, they ran wild. National headlines, military circles rallied. Even the Secretary of Veterans Affairs made a statement. This case will reshape the way we look at civilian policing and veteran rights. But not everyone was happy. Some folks online still said Coyle was just doing his job. Others spun conspiracy theories. They said Elijah was too calm, too perfect, as if surviving war disqualifies you from being human. That's the conversation that came next. Online. Debates, hashtags, protests on both sides, town halls, packed with people shouting, crying, accusing, defending. Elijah. He stayed mostly quiet, until he showed up on a small podcast hosted by a high school kid from his hometown. The host asked, "What do you hope people remember most from all this?" And Elijah looked at the camera, face weathered by years and grief, and said, "That I never stopped believing in a country that stopped believing in me." Cut to the final scene. Elijah standing at the memorial wall outside the local VA hospital, fingers tracing the names of men he served with, his eyes distant but grounded. Clara walks up beside him, says nothing, just stands there. Then, she asks, "What now?" Elijah looks out across the field, the wind tugging at his coat, and says, "Now we march again. Not with rifles, with truth." And as the camera pans out wide over the courthouse steps where new protesters gather, some silent, some shouting, some holding hands, the screen fades to black. And we're left wondering, did we just witness justice, or just the beginning of something bigger? So what do you think? Was Elijah's calm the real strength? Was Coyle ever truly sorry or just scared? Comment below. Tell us what justice looks like to you. And if this story moved you, share it. Let's keep these voices loud. Because silence, that's how they win. Subscribe, hit that bell, and we'll see you tomorrow with another story that demands to be heard.